You're listening to The Brand Compass, conversations to navigate your way to building a brand fit for purpose and poised for success. Here's your host, Shelley, Rostlund.
Hello there, my friend. Welcome back. Great to have you with me again. How are you doing? I don't know about you, but I've been finding it pretty tricky balancing this constant change our world is throwing at us at the moment. The last few years have really tested anybody's resilience to adapt to changing economic situations, the constant news of war and strife on our TV screens, and a society that seems intent on protecting itself and forgetting about the crucial element of looking after each other and working towards a greater good. Now, layer on top of that, we have these huge technological advances which bring its own wave of change. And really, you have this recipe for a deep sense of anxiety and fear of what the future will really bring. Firstly, I want to say, take a breath. Let's walk through this episode together so that by the end, we can regain some sensibility around what's outside of our control, what we actually can make an impact on, and what we can do to support our own mental fitness as professionals operating in this world that we find ourselves in. Today, I want to encourage you to double down on you and how you translate yourself to the outside world. Also, how do you make others feel when they work or communicate with you? The main way you do this is through your personal brand. At the moment, you may be doing some of these things naturally, but I assure you there's far more work to be done to really sharpen up how you feel about yourself, where you know you can add value, and how you express that to the outside world. With the rise of artificial intelligence, this work is becoming more and more important and crucial for two reasons. Number one, AI will not replace a thinking, adaptable human. Number two, AI will not, for a long time, be able to empathize, strategize with context, or critically question situations or circumstances. You, on the other hand, my friend, are a magnificent, complex being. However, knowing that we are complex is one part to realizing that we need to gain clarity about how we speak about what we do and how we express how we help people and embody the characteristics that others can resonate and connect with. I call this your human diversity, the dimensions to you which go further than your credentials and experience. The quicker you identify, articulate, and embrace your human diversity, the faster you will be ready to overcome the risk of AI replacing human-driven work in your field. Now, I spent a lot of time thinking about the ways in which I can convey the message that your personal brand is really the only thing you can work on during your professional life that stays yours forever. It's something you build, craft, create, and then hone and mature over time. It's truly a value accelerating asset. Now, I guess I have an ulterior motive here. My mission is to get more people to be good to others, genuinely enjoy the work they do, and attract more good people to work with. I feel like part of the secret to that is, of course, finding the work that is fulfilling for you, but also creating the space where you can be more of yourself, more of the time. The angle my team and I take when we work with subject matter experts on their personal brands is this. We start by looking at where you have come from and who you are today. Then we bring that into an aligned context, if you like, with what kind of working lifestyle you want in the future. So in simpler terms, our starting point is to really focus on what's brought you to what you are doing today, your origin story, if you like. And who are you today? Firstly, in your eyes, and then in the eyes of your ideal clients. Now, I might be able to hear a little voice whispering in your head going, how the heck do I get comfortable with this thing called personal brand? When I'm at work, I'm one person, and then I get to relax when I get home. I don't see how the two can come together. Is that what you're thinking? Right there, that is what I'm actually getting at. What if you didn't have to have this hard line where you had to stop being one thing to then flip the switch to relax and then be the other you at home? Interesting, right? What if you could just be you regardless of the time of day or night? Right, so I'm going to give you some insights into how this can work. From my experience, many people hold back so much of themselves in an effort to exude this line of professionalism. And in many cases, it's to the detriment of actually allowing any personality or humanness to get through. The result being, at best, you're coming across as cold or distant, and at worst, creating this hugely disjointed experience when people can't marry the you they meet in person versus the person who is, for example, on LinkedIn or sending them emails. Ultimately, my goal is for you to take my message today, breathe it in, and then apply it in a way that feels good for you. But the important part is apply it. With artificial intelligence here and getting better by the day, the humans that are going to rise to the top or indeed stay relevant are the ones who are going to take the time to work on this stuff. You need to gain clarity about where your human uniqueness lies and what the true value is that you bring to the workplace. If you are even slightly foggy about it, you'll start to feel anxiety like you've never known before, and you will convince yourself that you will be replaced by a robot in no time. The next 2 to 5 years are going to be hugely disruptive, and your grounding may start to feel like a messy moving sand dune at best, or sinking quicksand at worst. Okay, so let's get into some bits that you can focus on that are inside your realm of control. It'll even make you feel much more solid and confident from the inside, moving outwards. Bearing in mind that when you work on your personal brand, you will normally work on 4 big main areas. Number 1, your purpose or reason for doing what you're doing. Number 2, your personality, so how you come across to people. Number 3, your positioning and your proposition. So how do you compare to others in your field, and what is it exactly that you do to solve your ideal client's problems? And the 4th area is the experience that others have in working or communicating with you. In this episode, I want to zoom in on 2 of these areas, and that is your personality and the experience others have of you. This is where I feel your human diversity work will have the biggest impact. So, how do you recognize these diverse dimensions to you? Well, I like to start with your origin story. However, you can pull this from also looking at factors around your cultural, societal, or lifestyle influences. So, for example, for me, I'm South African. I grew up in a very turbulent country in the 70s and 80s. And while I am an English-speaking Caucasian person, I live in the UK. I learned Afrikaans, Northern Sotho, and Zulu at school, while my UK friends learned French, Spanish, or possibly even German. My cultural references are very different because I didn't grow up with the same TV shows, sports, or even political situation. So I really struggle with pub quizzes. I don't go to them, by the way. I am also part of an international relationship. My husband is Swedish. He was born in the snow. I was born in the sun. We both don't live in our native countries, and our daughter is now also growing up with a native country that's different to ours. So what does that have to do with my personal brand, you might ask? Well, it does affect my personality, how I come across to people, and also how I look at the world. I have different lenses to you, and I see things that possibly you don't. Or even on the flip side, I don't automatically make the connection to something that you do, and I may need a bit more context. I have also had to move countries and be uprooted. That gives me a different level of empathy to change and integrating into local society than most. I'm highly sensitive to looking at non-verbal cues and watching for disjoints in how people are truly feeling with what they are actually saying. Because, let's face it, British people can be very polite. That sometimes this really messes with how they communicate what they're actually thinking or want to say, which is not great for a foreigner trying to understand what the heck's going on. Can you see how by knowing some of these things, the picture of me in your mind is shifting? You are almost seeing different colors to me as if I were a picture. What I love about looking at these different dimensions to you is that they also inform what your micro-branding moments are. So these are the non-work related things about you which you can share with people. This allows people to get to know you and give them a peek into who you are as a human. When you know you have 2 or 3 of these micro-branding moments, this gives you lots of ideas of what you can share in conversations or even in your social media content, so that you're not coming across as dry or only work-related. All of a sudden, you start to stand out as someone who is interesting to get to know. This is important. This is what separates you from the robots. Prioritize doing this. Do this self-investigation work. Now, there is some science behind this. In order for you to connect and resonate with people, you have to display or embody characteristics that will actually attract people's emotional brain. Now, I'm not a brain scientist, so this is going to be a fairly rudimentary explanation. People have 2 brains when it comes to navigating the world: the logical brain and the emotional brain. The emotional brain is what instantly makes your mind up that you like someone and you want to work with them. However, it's the logical brain who is the fact checker. It's the one that will actually weigh up the evidence to support the decision that the emotional brain makes. What this means for you in working on your personal brand is that you need to ensure that you are doing a wholesome job of providing enough to satisfy both parts of the brain of your ideal client or potentially fresh new audiences. I suspect that today you have been more highly focused on the logical brain elements. Shall we test that? Okay, I'm going to walk through a couple of things that tick each of the 2 brains boxes, not sure how to say that, and I want to lightly reflect on whether you have enough of a balance between the 2. Okay, let's start with the emotional brain. Remember, this is the brain that makes that initial decision. So the kind of aspects which will attract and tickle the interest of the emotional brain are things like your values and principles, your tone of voice, choice of images, colors, words, associations, your points of view, physically seeing you and also physically experiencing you. Do you think you are embracing enough of those aspects in how you communicate and market yourself right now? I mean, properly, with thought and intent. Now, let's see what satisfies the logical brain. Remember, this is the fact checker who will justify the decision that the emotional brain has made. The kinds of aspects which make the logical brain happy are things like a list of your technical skills, what's your process, structure, credibility points, content choices, testimonials, pricing, what's the value, what's in it for them, what's your offer. How did you fare on those? You probably ticked quite a few of those, right? It's natural and easiest to start with those, to be honest. The key, my friend, is to recognize this important, almost intangible element of what connects and resonates with humans. Building your human diversity into the heart of how you want to shape your personal brand is what is going to make the biggest impact longer term and help to set you apart when the robots come for you. Kidding, not kidding. That's it for today, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that that's given you another perspective on what this kind of work can actually mean for you in the bigger picture of things. Personal branding is not a dirty phrase, and it's not exclusively for the Kardashians, the Elon Musks, or even the Richard Bransons of the world. Your voice is important. Your knowledge, experience, and viewpoint are important. Imagine the difference you could make to how people make decisions, shift their perspective, or even be better to other people. Help yourself to be heard by making yourself easier to be seen, understood, and resonated with. You can be a quiet rebel that causes waves without being shouty or loud. Who do you know that could do with hearing this episode? Share this with them. You know you want to. Until then, my friend, stay strong, believe you have value, and make good brand decisions.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Compass. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your entrepreneurial friends and help them make good brand decisions. Until next time, let's keep the conversation going at 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗓.com.